Hi everyone, my name is Eva and I am Italian. So I wanted to make a video in English about the famous study that allegedly has identified mysterious structures under the pyramid of Chefren. I'm not used to speak English every day, as you are. I will do my best. I have my notes all around me, so you will see me reading every now and then. I have been interested in ancient Egypt since I was a little girl, and when I was 12 years old, I had the opportunity to visit Egypt with my family. It was a wonderful experience, and I would love to go back to Egypt one day. Also, my field of study is linguistics. Now, I have followed the debate about these underground structures for the last few months, since the beginning, actually. And I think that being Italian gave me access to information that honestly would be difficult to get otherwise. So I hope this video helps the English-speaking public to have some more context about the whole topic. I will talk about the three researchers, Armando May, Corrado Malanga, and Filippo Biondi. But first, let me tell you how it all began for me. I was scrolling on my Facebook one day and I started to see these articles popping up about the finding of structures under the pyramid of Chefren. And at the beginning, I didn't pay much attention to them, but more and more people started talking about it, and even Graham Hancock wrote about it. And he mentioned the name of Corrado Malanga, and I was like, what is going on? Malanga is not super famous in Italy, but I think that if you are Italian, there is a chance that you have heard about him at least once. He has a passionate following. They think that he's a genius, but there are also people who criticize him. Generally speaking, he is considered a controversial figure. So I went and watched the whole conference. Yes, the famous conference that was held in March, I think. So I started to have a clearer idea about what was going on. Let's start with Armando May. He is a journalist. He writes books about the past, ancient civilizations, ancient codes, and so on. Malanga introduces him as the best Egyptologist out there, period. His speech starts with him talking about the pyramids, then he gets into numerology. Basically, according to his calculations, everything we see on the Giza Plateau is a unitary project and was not built by the ancient Egyptians. Oh my God, no. But by an ancient civilization 36,400 years ago, a long, long time ago. The people who built all the buildings in Giza didn't want to use language to communicate with us in the future, but they decided to use numbers. Then Armando May proceeds to show the planimetry of the Valley Temple in Giza, which according to him was built 36,400 years ago, more or less. And looking at the temple from above, he sees three numbers and also certain Hebrew letters with the particularly esoteric meaning. This is all because of the shapes and the columns and the number of columns and so on. Then he shows how he has translated certain words in a way that I found questionable. Being a lover of languages, I went straight up to make a video in Italian because I was upset by the way he was explaining all the linguistic part of the speech and the way he did his translations. At one point, he also talks about the ancient emerald tablet. He says that it is an ancient text handed down since at least the Middle Ages, if not before, and that's correct. He then shows the audience five formulas in an unknown language. These formulas don't make any sense in any language. He calls them mantras, and he says that they were given by the god Thoth in the Emerald Tablet. And I was like, really? I went to check and I found that the Emerald Tablet is quite brief. It's a brief text. And I could not find those mysterious sentences in it. After a while, I discovered that those formulas came from a book, and the title is Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Atlantean, by the American occultist Maurice Doreal. His real name was Claude Doggins, and also founder of the White Brotherhood. Doreal claimed that in 1925, while he was visiting the Giza Plateau, two mysterious figures gave him the emerald tablets of Thoth, and he had translated them into English. I wonder how would you put where would you put those tablets in your house? Because the book is thick, so I don't know how many tablets. I don't know whatever. He wrote the book in first person. I thought the Atlantean, and so on. Now, in the 15th chapter or tablet of the book, you can find these mantras. You can buy the book and see for yourself. During the conference, Armando May says that he and Filippo Biondi, the engineer, well, they both tried to understand the meaning of those mantras. So it's interesting to know that Filippo Biondi also participated in the more philosophical, esoteric, and philological part of the research. And then by changing some syllables and moving the words here and there, they came up with a translation. I don't know from which language, they won't say, but the resulting translations, in my opinion, are quite generic, like God, the spirit of God, and the house of life. And I don't understand how these meanings are even relevant to the whole study. You can think that this book by Doreal was a translation of a real ancient text, or you can think that this book is channeled, or you can think that the whole story is made up, including the mantras. Either way, it's quite clear that Armando May takes this text seriously. I don't know if he is just confused and thinks that this text is the original Emerald Tablet. He never mentions the title of the book by Maurice Doreal. He never mentions Maurice Doreal. He just makes a direct link between the description of the original ancient text and these mysterious formulas, so the public is led to believe that those formulas can be found in the original Emerald Tablet, and they cannot. But what is more important is that In the book, Maurice Doreal often mentions the city of Amenti. Now, Amenti was both an ancient Egyptian goddess and the place, a spiritual place, the underworld, where after death, souls were judged by the gods. Another name for it was Duat. And Maurice Doreal kinds of suggests that there is a real city under the Giza Plateau. And this is not completely strange because he is also the father of the whole reptilian theory. He used to say that there was a race of reptilians living underground. So there was another psychic who used to say that there was a secret chamber under the Sphinx. So underground things like cities and treasures were trendy at that time. I think that the whole speech of Armando May was aiming to clarify that what they are looking for is the city of Amenti under the Giza Plateau. I think this is what they are looking for. Let's move on to Corrado Malanga. He began as a chemist, a physicist, but, that is the past. He has moved on to other subjects like aliens, consciousness, God, everything. He talks about everything under the sun. Recently, I have made 3 videos in Italian about certain aspects of his theories pertaining ancient languages. And my opinion is that his ideas aren't really his. He takes other people's ideas that he likes and add them to his hyper theory, sometimes to the point that the inner coherence of the whole hyper theory is lost. At the beginning of his career, Malanga started getting involved in the whole UFO ET subject and got interested in the abduction phenomenon. So much so that he started conducting regressive hypnosis on people in order to help them remember their abduction experiences. I'm not sure if he has a training in hypnosis or psychotherapy. I know he studied PNL, but I don't know about his training as a psychologist. I'm not sure he has trained to conduct such things, but who knows? He has all sorts of theories about aliens, consciousness. He has developed a meditation technique. And last time I checked, 2 weeks ago, he was announcing a book about Marian apparitions and how they could be related to aliens, and also about asking the artificial intelligence questions about major topic or how an alien consciousness would take over the world. So he never stops. He goes from one thing to the next. So what does Malanga think about the pyramids? He wrote a book about the pyramids with a focus on Cheops pyramid or Khufu, and the title is Khnum Khufu. And actually, the book has been co-written by Corrado Malanga and Filippo Biondi. In his book, Malanga explains that a long time ago there were 2 species on this planet. They came from somewhere else. They were called Aztlan and Aryan. They were often in conflict with each other, but they spoke the same language, which apparently was Paleo-Sanskrit. Then there was a cataclysm, and they spread all over the planet. One of the 2 races disappeared and left behind things like megalithic structures, pyramids, elongated skulls, RH-type blood, and hieroglyphic writings. So, what are the pyramids according to Corrado Malanga? Well, they are not tombs. Surprise, surprise. The pyramids were healing devices, ladies and gentlemen. They were used for healing and regeneration. Regeneration of whom? Of the ancient pharaohs / alien kings of the past. Now, although these ancient alien pharaohs had a long life, when they got to the end of their lives and they were old and ill, they refused to die and they wanted to extend their existence. So they were put in a low chamber inside the pyramid. Then a human being was chosen, didn't matter who he was, a commoner. They took this human being, they put the human being in the upper chamber, in the sarcophagus. Then the pyramid was filled with water up to a certain level, and that is what the shafts are for. There was a system of tanks and circulation, water circulation. Now, when the wind came in contact with the pyramid, it entered the pyramid and passed through those relieving chambers that some people like to call jet nowadays, although they are not jet. Well, these things acted like filters, so they produced a certain frequency or vibration. That vibration would extract the so-called anemic part from the human being. And by anemic part, and when we say anemic part, we are using a term that is part of the Malangian theory about the human being. Let's say soul. Okay, so this vibration would extract the soul from this poor human being, and that part was transferred to the king so that he would heal and regenerate and live longer. Whew. I hope it is clear. It was not easy. Now let's move on to Filippo Biondi. Filippo Biondi, he is an engineer, the engineer of the Chefren project. But many people think that Malanga got the idea of looking under the pyramids or inside the pyramids and just hired an expert like Biondi. But the reality is that Biondi was the one who was interested in the ideas promoted by Malanga and went to one of his conferences. During the conference, Malanga mentioned the Scam Pyramid project. So Biondi approached the Malanga and said to him, I can make my technology available to you if you want to do your own research. And so the whole project started. Now, I'm totally ignorant about SAR technology or everything relating to satellites, but even an ignorant like me can notice a couple of things that are not quite right. So these are just my opinions, but I want to express them. For example, the units of measurement are not shown in the tomographies from the 2022 paper. So how can anyone know if what we are looking at is a meter or 10 meters of surface? I think from a scientific point of view, it would be important to know what we are looking at. Another thing that is making me question the whole study is that we know that the underground section of the Giza Plateau is full of water. If we dug a little bit under the Giza Plateau, we would soon find a lot of water. And it was the same thing in the past. It's full of water down there. So I can't imagine how an underground city or structure can exist there. Um, I think it would be really strange to dig these huge, to carve these huge columns in the water. Why choose that place? Well, yeah, I have also listened to a lot of experts, both English speaking experts and Italian speaking experts. They were not convinced. But what do I know? What I know is that Filippo Biondi wrote a whole section of the book Knum Kufu, and uh, in that section, he introduces himself in a very impressive way. For example, he claims to have special abilities, such as he has he has experienced out of body experiences repeatedly. He has premonitions. He can do telekinesis. He can read closed books from a distance. He can remember his past lives. He can bend steel cutlery, and he can heal with his hands. That's really impressive. Um, well, you know what? I think he should go to Egypt, sit beside the pyramids, and just look down. His eyes can clearly see through matter, so you don't need a radar technology in order to do that. Well, that's all I wanted to say. I hope my video helped you have more context or a clearer idea about the origin story of the Chefren project that took the internet by the storm. Thank you for watching. Have a nice one. Ciao, ciao.